people have the sensation, I mean, even if they're not concentrating on it, they have the sensation that something is really, really amiss with our world.
Adapt 2030 Mini Ice Age Conversations covers changes in our climate due to a new and intensifying grand solar minimum. In the media, overlooking, downplaying, or burying cold weather changes occurring on our planet. This is in order to keep the global warming agenda steaming full speed ahead. I do this podcast and radio program because we need to begin conversations on how to adapt our food growing strategies long before 2030 as agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output, but very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time, cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the grand solar minimum? Then join me for Mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David Dubine. Good afternoon, everyone. As always, with the changes happening across our planet, you can feel the vibrational frequency changes due to the sun going into the grand solar minimum. So many people are feeling and noticing these changes around our planet. So today I have with us authors of Earth Changes and the Human Cosmic Connection, The Secret History of the World, Book 3, the author Laura Knight-Yadchik, and the contributor Pierre Lescaldron. Now, it fits exactly with what's happening on the planet at the moment, with everything we're seeing just on the weather end of things that are leading into the economics, into the politics, and everything in between, the threads holding our society together. Jet stream meanderings, Gulf Stream slowdowns, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, meteor fireballs, tornadoes, deluges, sinkholes, noctilucent clouds, and the list does go on. We have the extremes of the extreme happening now every single week, and every single storm now is a once in a 200 year, once in a 500 year event. But Pierre also links this together with findings from the electric universe. And I know so many of you out there that follow my work also are fans of the electric universe. Now, there's a strong correlation between periods of authoritarian oppression and catastrophic, cosmically induced natural disasters. Wanted to talk on that for a little bit. But what is Signs of the Times? SOTT.net. Now, you've seen them before. They have a channel on YouTube, SOTT Media. I encourage you to go there because they a really well done monthly series of videos. Earth Changes Summary. It wraps up the extreme weather events that happened on the planet. And just last week, the new October 2018 Extreme Weather Planetary Upheaval Meteor and Fireballs edition is out. And again, you can find that on SOTT Media. SOTT.net is a leading news site with both original research articles and is a news aggregator revealing global trends that the mainstream media overlooks or downplays. The SOTT project includes analyzing news items that reflect quantum energies on our planet. And again, with the grand solar minimum and these vibrational frequency changes that we're all experiencing, it really explains the events that are happening in terms of government, society, economy, and you can just see how traditional structure is shifting across the planet. So Pierre and Laura, I thank you for joining me. The floor is open. I'm done talking at the moment. Please, I'll leave it open for you.
Thank you very much for a very nice introduction. I would just want to say at the beginning that one of the things that SOTT began doing at its inception was keeping track of things, because we noticed that people forgot from one day to the next what was really going on. When political leaders would say one thing one day, then the next day they would say something completely different. You know, people tended to forget. And it was back in, I think it was April or May of 2002 that I started it, just to keep track of the headlines. In a way, it was just aggregating and writing a commentary saying, you know, look what he said on this occasion, and then now look what he's saying now. I mean, do you see the contradiction there? And then as time went on, it began to include more and more earth changes type events, because I could see that these were happening in tandem with the global political event. This needs to be recorded. This needs to be correlated in some way, because it's too coincidental that the craziness in politics, I mean, the real absolute overt craziness, began and was followed not long by a dramatic increase in global earth changes type events. And that was something that I thought we needed to keep track of and comment on. And of course, then we began writing our own articles and stories and putting things together. And I was digging deeply into the historical research and finding lots of historical patterns. What we see happening now has happened before, and I just don't see a good outcome unless people really get a clue and change, and I don't think that that's even possible. You know, we and other alternative news sites have been fighting a good fight for years now, and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. So that's my little intro on the topic.
And Pierre, would you like to throw anything in there? Because, you know, the way our star is behaving and literally the current space that we're in the universe with the Birkeland currents and the field-aligned currents driving down our poles, just the magnetic field of our sun changing, affecting the magnetic field on our Earth. What do you feel about all this amplification that's happening at the moment?
I feel a sense of the inexorable. I'm afraid we passed the point of no return. Might be a gloomy prediction, but I guess the future is open, so we see what happens. In any case, this human cosmic connection that we postulated about in the book goes both ways. There's almost a downward spiral of cosmic event hysterizing the people, leading to more oppression and craziness on a human level, leading to a cosmic reaction with more natural catastrophes, more hysterization, etc., etc. It's a both-way street.
Yeah, this is true. And of course, our perspective is somewhat informed by research into past cataclysms and catastrophes. And the one thing that we pay particular note of is the increasing flux of fireballs. And we've followed the work of Victor Klube and Bill Napier, British astronomers, who say that we are at present in a stream of fireball flux. And it could be very dangerous because we don't know how big the objects are in that stream. And we have here a chart showing the fireball events starting just in 2006. It doesn't even go back any further than that. And in 2006, there were just a few, and there were three reported. In 2007, there were 8. In 2008, there were 17. 2009, 13. 2010, 18. 2011, big jump, 63. 2012, 92. 2013, big jump, 172, more than doubled. 2014, 194. 2015, 242. 2016, 255. 2017, 280, and thus far in 2018 we have 258. But you see there's a little up and down thing. But basically we've gone in the last 12 years from 3 to almost 300.
So it does seem that we're getting into a heavy, more dense area of cosmic debris that we're going to be transiting through. And when you look at, cyclical histories of our planet and the galactic cross and everything that has been referenced and mentioned through ancient religions, ancient cultures, ancient belief systems, it's all cyclical. And they know that we're going through this heavy, dense area of a really full neighborhood in space, if you will. And it's here right now again. I mean, the part of that you have on SOTT.net, the website Secret History, it takes you through a lot of just the political history as well. But digging back in, they're finding these one-offs, a 3,000-year-old mummy. Like, where do we find that? Oh, by accident. A 16-year-old thousand this. Something is always showing that there was massive transition instantly that we're now just finding again. A lot of it's trying to be covered up, of course, but it's great that all these new things are being brought to the forefront. Velikovsky talks about the same thing. I don't know, how dense of a region do you think we're going into? I've heard many postulations of how thick this debris cloud and this debris field that we're going through is going to be ultimately.
Well, there are some people who are talking about a field of cosmic debris or something that it has more to do with, extrasolar system matter. What Klube and Napier actually talk about is a giant comet that entered the solar system I think it was 20,000 years ago and caused certain interactions because, of course, when a body like this, which is highly electrically charged, comes into the electrical solar system, it has a considerable effect both on the sun and the Earth and all the other planets. And it began to, as comets do, to disintegrate, to start shedding parts of it. And depending on where the Earth was in its interaction with the orbit of this body, which began to orbit within our solar system, it was no longer an extrasolar system object. It was a solar system object. And that what they're talking about is a debris field that is the remnants of the destruction of this giant comet, which they say is the model for many of the ancient Greek myths and legends of, things that were going on in the sky, as well as Native American stories. And, when the comet first broke into two, there were two in the sky, and then it broke it, had children like the children of Zeus or the children of Kronos. Yeah. So that they would, there were all these stories that were being made up about these comets in the sky that were doing these various things. And so what they're talking about basically is an intrasolar system stream of debris that rotates around. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he say it was orthogonal to the plane of the ecliptic? Or I'm pretty sure it was, that it was orthogonal. And it, depending on what parts of the stream, some parts of the stream are thicker and have more matter and more debris, and then other parts are thinner. And some of these meteor showers that we experience at periodic, fairly well scheduled periods during the year, such as the Torrid meteor stream, you have one at the end of October, early November, you have another one in late June. And for example, the Tunguska event was supposed to be one of the bodies of this meteor stream, and that was in June
1907.
So that was supposed to be part of the Torrid meteor stream. And their idea is that we still have within our solar system these bodies, and they are electrically charged. And then, of course, Mike Bailey, the dendrochronologist, talks about the Black Death and how he believes that it was accompanied by meteoric activity and meteorites and that sort of thing, and that the Black Death itself was because this object was so black that it absorbed light. So he goes into a lot of detail about that, and it's all very interesting. And apparently the powers that be have done many cover-ups of this fact, because the basic thing, as Pierre wrote in his book, when it's obvious to people that the powers that be really aren't in charge and that there is something amiss in the cosmos, they begin to get agitated, and they, of course, they need somebody to blame, and the obvious person to blame is the people who are in charge, who then have to find another scapegoat to deflect the blame from themselves, so everything gets into a crazy situation. And in a sense, that's what we're seeing now, because people have the sensation, even if they're not concentrating on it, they have the sensation that something is really, really amiss with our world. And we do have climate change. It just isn't climate change the way the IPCC wants us to think it is, where global cooling is always preceded by global warming. Not necessarily just historical records, but ice core records and things like that. It shows that global warming is always a preceder of global cooling, ice ages. Whether they are, long 10,000-year ice ages or whether they're mini ice ages, such as we experienced during the colonial period of America. America was settled under extremely horrific circumstances. The people who came to settle the colonies were fairly desperate because they'd been undergoing since about the 14th century extreme climate conditions, and there was famine, there was food shortages, there was war, there was ice, there was freezing, there was, basically just a really horrible situation, and people were dying from plague right and left, because plague, again, always seems to accompany these famines that accompany cooling, which follows heating, because the Little Ice Age followed, of course, what they call the medieval warm period. Historically speaking, there is an extraordinary amount of precedent. There are amazing records, even going back to Roman times. If you look at Julia Subsequent's compilation of the records of unusual atmospheric events that were going on in Rome from several hundred BC until the time of Livy himself, you find that almost absolute descriptions of everything that's going on today. I mean, things in the sky, things, St. Elmo's fire everywhere, lightning bolts that were extraordinary, fire in the sky. It's just incredible when you start to study the history to see what was really going on in these various periods. Now it's just an exact repeat. We're just repeating everything.
I might add in one point there. If you were the governing bodies of the world and you knew this event was coming, you would almost set up the excuse first so when the people saw the changes that they would already have an excuse in place. But this excuse is quickly playing out to its end result at the very moment, literally this day, this week, this month, and it's over because people are realizing these cooling events are really taking over. Now, the fourth National Climate Assessment out of the United States is saying that's going to warm 6.6 degrees Celsius over the next 80 years.
Right.
And this plethora of articles coming out saying we need to spray the atmosphere desperately to cool our planet right now. And then what are they going to do? Put up a little bit of dust up there and then say, look, we cooled the planet because global cooling's here naturally anyway. Again, that scapegoat and that way out for them is, look, we're responsible for the cooling. And you can already see the playbook.
Yeah.
Yes, that's one fundamental way to deflect individuals from the truth about those cosmic events growing in number and intensity is to downplay them, is to ignore them, and when they cannot be ignored, is to ascribe them to human causes. It's anthropogenic global warming, anthropogenic nocturnal sand cloud, anthropogenic chemtrails, because if it's made by humans, it can be solved by humans. And therefore, the mandate of the elites is not void, because in the end, the elites are here, use the resources produced by the individuals in order to protect them. That's the mandate, the basic of the mandate in theory. If the masses realize that the elite are not able to protect them from those catastrophes that are indeed of cosmic origins, so humans cannot change anything to it, they lose their mandate. Worse than that, if the individuals open their eyes, realize about the cosmic connection, the mandate of event, the mandate of heaven, the dynastic cycle, they might realize that actually not only the elites cannot protect them from cosmically induced catastrophes, but worse than that, the elites, through the human cosmic connection, are directly responsible for all or part of the catastrophes.
That's the important thing, I think, because if people really could or would wake up and see that the elites and their policies are to the greatest extent responsible for the turmoil that sends the signal into the cosmos that then attracts the return signal, which is the increasing environmental chaos on our planet, and that by all of the people as a body standing up against this 1% of pathological, what would you call them, the psychopathic rulers, not only could they change the outcome, but they might even be able to mitigate it at this point. It's a two-way street, as Pierre said. It's a feedback loop. And
Yeah,
we're
and I
through
agree
right
with.
now.
No, and I agree with that because sometimes when people ask me, what's happening, how bad is it going to get? I say, well, it could go in two directions, literally. If everybody on this planet started thinking the exact same thing at the exact same time, the power of 8 billion thoughts manifesting physical reality can literally change us dimensionally and can take us into different spaces. And since I have been talking about our need moving forward in this new society that we're entering as our global grain production starts to be reduced in yield, your food prices are going to skyrocket. And I mean skyrocket, not just doubling or tripling, something like 5 or 10 times higher, by 2020 at the very least. TrueLeafMarket.com. I really want to talk about growing your own food, which will be a necessity moving forward. They've been around since 1974, heirloom and organic seeds. Since I've started talking about them in my videos, I have a lot of people write and say that they've previously ordered, that they know the owner, having great results, good customer service. They quite enjoyed the seed quality as well. And there's so many ways that we can go about growing different types of vegetables that we're going to need. Microgreens are incredibly nutritious. They're super fast to grow. In less than a week, you can have something that you can eat. And we know the benefits of microgreens. All you have to do is use a search engine and look up vitamin, mineral, nutrient content of microgreens. You'll be shocked. Also, sprouts. We can get those a little bit taller, a little more dense, a little bit larger volume on the vegetation mass coming off of there. So how do you know what kind of sprouts to grow? How about wheatgrass or herbs? What about different types of herbs that we can add to our foods? Now, what I just described to you, there's a full range of starter guides there at trueleafmarket.com for you to take a look at. Even if it's just for your own knowledge and you don't purchase something from them, at least get the information so you know how to grow microgreens, you know how to grow sprouts, you understand what some of the herbs are for. And not only that, they have wheatgrass and grain seeds. So when I'm talking about grain growing regions going offline, we just need to look back in history and see where across the planet there was difficulty growing grains when this grand solar minimum intensified and the jet stream started wandering just like they're doing today due to a decreased magnetosphere that does not hold our jet streams locked in their traditional flows. Grains are one thing, herb seeds are another, cover crops, something different, but whatever you do, organic seeds are going to be a necessity because you can save those seeds and then grow them the next season, which you unequivocally cannot do with GMO. TrueLeafMarket.com. Use the link below and give yourself the gift of organic and heirloom seeds. They keep us divided in so many ways, so our vibrational power does not unite into one conscious entity moving forward at the changes we want to see on this planet. I really firmly believe that. And then I say, then we could get stuck right back into, you got to think about these sociopathic power leaders. They're using us. You're being used as a battery for their vibration frequency they want to set on the planet to lock you into a prison, literally. The way they have programmed the entire mass of this planet through media, through education, through infighting between race division, economic division, and everything in between has just put, wedges between what could be a vibrationally succinct and unison body. But now they've changed the entire planet into a different frequency. And when you talk about that reflection frequency coming back, going out into the cosmos, further out, thousands and thousands of galaxies, trillions of planets, trillions of stars, where does this vibration go out and what does it bring back the way we are vibrating at this moment? I think there's a fix. If we vibrate differently, we can escape this grand solar minimum. And that's always my A or B solution.
I think today, most of the humanity is resonating on the same frequency. The question is, which frequency? Due to the work of the mainstream media, of the elites, a lot of people are fed with the same lies, and they resonate on the same lies frequency. That's for the intellectual part. On an emotional level, individuals feel a growing sense of despair, of unfairness, injustice, sadness, anger. So they resonate on the same frequency line and they resonate on the same anger frequency as well. And these are not good frequencies for positive outcomes. That's why we think a key would be individuals to change the frequency they resonate on. And that is a frequency based on truth, on the true objective assessment of reality.
Yeah, and there's so many of those. What about abundance and love and opportunity and happiness? These are the types of vibrations that we need to start moving toward. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with this grand solar minimum, because at some point in the very near future, and I've been saying, and especially with Valentina Zarkova coming out just the last week saying, hey, we got global food shortages by 2028. And the people I talk to with the economics are saying, no, there's going to be no availability for anything by 2025. If we continue down this road with the same earth we live on now, there'll be nothing available crop-wise. Everybody's going to hoard it within their countries, and there'll be nothing for exports by 2025, absolutely, is what they were saying. So you got to think about that, too. This anger and just depression and gloom cloud that people are feeling, once they understand, if we continue down this same timeline, which I hope we don't, I hope we can vibrate out of it, people, they're going to be angry because the governments have lied to them and not given them time to prepare. That'll be the first thing. And there'll be a public anger outburst toward all the leaders because, hey, you knew this was coming for 15 years and you didn't tell us until now, and now we're out on the streets and in lines. And also, who's going to keep working? This whole fractional reserve banking system depends on you keeping your money in the bank and you keeping your money in the stocks and you keep investing. But when people exit their positions to get ready for the changes, the entire economic system freezes up, and that includes credit. So how do the farmers buy more seed for the next year, more machinery for the next year? And we get into that feedback loop again. If we continue on the same paradigm timeline, frequency line.
I think it's actually going to happen sooner than that, because these sorts of things can rebound. The rebound effect can be very, very rapid, and it can create a cascade of events that are so, that they just snowball. I mean, the snowball effect, no pun intended here. And the other thing is the elites knew about this, more than the last 10 or 15 years, because Victor Klube was asked to write an assessment for the U.S. Air Force, for the military, or for NASA. And he wrote an assessment and gave his opinion. And he even said that in times such as what we are in now, but it was in the future when he was writing this, he said something to the effect that the Cold War is needed to hide cosmic intentions, which is basically what we're seeing now. And one almost gets the impression that every elite leader on the planet, and I love Vladimir Putin very dearly, but you know what? Because I think he's a great guy. But you know what? Sometimes you wonder if he's in on it too, because they keep this Cold War thing going on, and it's basically a big freaking distraction. They're just, I'm going to shoot you today. No, I'm going to shoot you tomorrow. I'm going to bomb you back to the Stone Age. No, we're going to bomb you first. And you killed him and she killed her and he's this and that and the other thing. And everybody's been kept distracted by all of this, and also kept divided because they all align with different factions, who they support, who they don't support. And it's all a big farce being played out to keep people distracted from what's really, really of the most supreme, extraordinary, mind-boggling importance, which is what's happening on our planet. Our planet is effectively turning against us because we are, as you say, vibrating on the frequency of these psychopathic leaders who care nothing for the planet itself, for the life on that planet, for the environment, for anything, much less the people. Just like parasites on any creature, the earth is getting a little itchy and it's going to sneeze pretty soon. And when the earth sneezes, watch out.
And the consequences go far beyond global cooling. Global cooling is only one of the effects of the fundamental change we've been describing in the book. There are much more in store than global cooling. If it was only global cooling, that would be that would not be this bad. But what we have tried to explain in this book, there are those fundamental phenomena at a planet level, especially the opening up of the planet and the slowing down of the planet, and
all of which are electrical.
And also, electrical. We can develop that later. And we also try to reconcile two apparently incompatible facts, observation. On one side, the increase in cometry activity, and on the other side, a decrease in solar activity. That should be the opposite, because as you know, comets are highly electrical bodies that tends to discharge the solar condenser between the sun and the heliosphere. This is not happening, the contrary is happening. So we suspect that we are in a cycle, several cycles, but one of the most important cycle is a very long cycle that has been illustrated by Seporsky rope. Over the last 300, 400 million years, you've had 18 mass extinctions out of, and I'm talking really mass extinctions here, where you have between 20 and 80% of life on the planet that disappears. It's way beyond, way more serious than Maunder minimum or Dalton minimum. And out of these 18 mass extinctions, 11 show the same frequency. That happens every 27 million years. And each in those stratas, in the last one, for example, in 65 places on the planet were found the same chemicals, iridium, namely the same element, iridium that is a clear marker of cometary activity. It means that very probably every 27 million years, the same massive cometary bombardment impact the Earth. But then it leads to another question. How can a cometary swarm be this stable and come back every 27 million years? It is not possible. Cometaries are too small, too unstable gravitationally, and the stars encountered the way are too strong. They would deviate, absorb the swarm. So we posited the existence of a twin sun, some call Nemesis, a twin sun, that every 27 million years come back in the vicinities of the solar system and bring with it a cometary swarm. And that would reconcile this apparent paradox. The solar activity is dropping because the twin is getting closer to the sun and grounding it, probably, or maybe tapping onto the same electrical source as the sun, and therefore decreasing the electrical load available for the sun and decreasing its activity, solar activity. At the same time, you have this approach of a swarm, cometary swarm, hence the increase in observation, and also, important factor, the increase in atmospheric dust. Atmospheric dust load has a lot of implication on the planetary level. A slowing down on the planet, an increase of the cloud coverage, and other factors we can develop.
And it transmits electrical currents from different layers of the atmosphere. At the same time, we have the weakening of the magnetic field of the planet. We have the increase in volcanic activity. And all it would take would be a couple of volcanoes to blow in a really big way. And boom, we're in an ice age.